Hi, I'm Alex from scooterwest.com and Vespa Motorsport here in San Diego. We're going to install a Malossi Variator and Malossi springs on my BV350. I'm super stoked. Robot's going to do that for me. We're also going to show how to replace a belt on the bike as well. Won't need it for 12,000 miles, but it's good to know. Malossi, the Variator here, Malossi part number on that is M5115308. And on the springs, M2915398, and that's on scooterwest.com. So anyhow, Robot's going to get on this and show you how to do all this. So, be awesome.
Hey, this is Robot here. I'm going to go into a little overview on some of these trick Malossi Variator parts we're going to put in. Have it all opened up. You can see I got the Variator itself, the actual roller weights. They come with 10-gram roller weights. The 10-gram roller weights allow the RPMs of the engine to build a little bit higher throughout the whole entire acceleration range, so it gives you a stronger acceleration. The design of this actual pulley essentially gives you an overall ratio that's slightly higher. You have the very top gear. Essentially, it's not really any types of gears because it's a constantly variable transmission, but you can get a little bit higher top speed with this Variator design. Also includes the tensioner spring, and we'll show how to change that out. And there's the boss that we'll need to grease up. All right, I've jumped into pulling the belt cover off and getting this job started right here. First of all, you're going to need a fairly complete set of mechanics tools to do this job. I'll pretty much go over the sizes of sockets and what tools you need as you do this job right here. First of all, I took off the plastic belt cover. This is like a cover over the belt cover. There's a little bit more to it than just a plastic cover. You got that little guy prise off out of those two little rubber things. A little 6mm fastener needs an 8mm socket. You can see the 4 fasteners that pop through this long one. And the one thing you want to do anytime you do a belt service, you want to pull this little guy out and clean this filter. You don't need to oil or anything, you just want to blow it out with compressed air, wash it in soapy water, whatever you need to do. Definitely want that thing to stay clean because the belt cooling relies on that filter. So get that guy out of the way. Then you have, I think it's 9 fasteners, something like that. You got fasteners all the way around the belt cover that you want to remove. And then there's 2 fasteners for the air box that you need to remove just to lift the air filter out of the way enough to get to those top belt cover fasteners. So pretty much I'll get all these fasteners off and we'll be back in. The 2 air filter fasteners are out. The front one's actually a little longer. You got 2 washers on each one of those bolts right there. Then I got the 11 belt cover fasteners all the same length. So up here the belt cover's out of the way, of course, to get those upper 4 belt cover fasteners. Then you want to bang the rear fastener off. Pretty much you just do it with the impact tool. And that's a 15mm socket right there. Bang that off. You got this wave washer. Leave that on there. You saw the belt cover kind of came loose. Pull that guy right off. Make sure this little bearing's still smooth. This is a new bike, so no issue with that. But there you go. There, you can see the whole transmission magic going on right underneath this. We're going to go ahead and remove the driven pulley, which consists of the Variator and the fixed pulley half. As you can see, there's 2 pins in this pulley right here. You can use some sort of pin spanner kind of adjustable tool. 21mm socket. I have an impact. Pretty much hold it. Thick washer comes off first. It's got a dome that kind of faces towards the inside of the motor. And then the thin washer, sometimes it's stuck to the pulley, so you may need to grab it, rock it back and forth. Once you get that free, you'll be able to pull this pulley right off the splines. You see it's got the splines in there. Put that aside. Got 1 more washer that's a little thicker than the previous washer. You can see that. Just keep those all in order. And next you could pull this whole assembly off with the belt. Actually, just pulls off your driven pulley and the spring that we're going to go ahead and replace in the next steps. Check if you're reusing the belt, you can inspect it, make sure there's no cracks in the belt. If it has over 12,000 miles on it, definitely want to replace it. I'm going to remove the Variator. First, pull the boss. You can hold the Variator back, pull the boss right off the splines. Then get your fingers behind there, and I'm holding the ramp plate. I'm going to go ahead and pull the whole Variator assembly off. Reason I'm holding the back plate is to keep the Variator from falling apart as you're pulling off the splines. And there's the inside of the stock Variator right there, 8 rollers. We're going to reuse the ramp plate for the Malossi Variator kit, so pretty much take all those guys off, save that part, and we'll set that aside. We're going to go ahead and build the Malossi Variator. All right, Malossi Variator is unique that you actually grease the bosses that the pin goes into. Basically, you just want to put some grease right in there. I'm just squirting some in liberally and just kind of smear it all in there. And same with the boss. There's actually 2 little wells. You could actually pack it into this little groove right here. All the way around. There's like this little groove that captures the grease. And I'm kind of putting more than it really needs. And next you're going to want to slide the actual boss right into the Variator. And you'll see on the other side you're going to end up having a surplus of grease. You don't want any of that grease to get on your belt, so take a rag and wipe all that excess grease off on that side. Thanks, Alex. So pretty much I'm just wiping all the grease out, and now that's all packed with grease. And this comes with plenty of grease to redo this job a number of times. For the rollers, for a stock roller, they use a different type of roller that only goes in one direction. And pretty much with all these types of rollers, if it's one that has a closed looking end and an open end, the open end always faces clockwise. But with these Malossi rollers, they can be installed either way because they actually have a plastic guard on both sides. So it doesn't matter which way the Malossi ones go in. But with stock rollers, you want to have the open face clockwise, pretty much is how I think about it. So I'm dropping all these 10-gram rollers in. Pretty straightforward there. Drop those in. I want to clean this guy up. This is the existing ramp plate right here from the original Variator itself. Then we're going to go ahead and put these Variator guides. And generally every time I do a belt service, I actually change these little plastic parts out. You know, they're consumable little parts. They actually go in one way. I kind of wasn't paying attention. They actually won't slide on that way, so you got to flip it around, and they easily go on.
And note that those are new guides that were actually included with the Malossi kit. The original red ones have not been reused.
So that's all assembled. Pretty much it just drops right onto the Variator right here. And there you go. Pretty much carefully push the boss back in. And I'm kind of again holding my fingers back there. You don't have any excess grease on this Variator face. I'll give it one more wipe before I put it all together. And pretty much line up with the splines. Fingers kind of back there until you have no room. Slide it on there, and there you go. It's on there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and install this tensioner spring. It's actually the trickiest part of this whole install. Here at our workshop, I have all the factory tools to hold this clutch, but I'm going to show you how to do it. I don't know, the Steve Bailey way. How about that? So we're going to pan down. We got the goodness on the ground right here. I got my actual driven pulley assembly. I got a 46mm socket. This is actually the factory socket. It's kind of a shallow one, but you need a 46mm socket. It's pretty dangerous because the thing's under a lot of spring tension, but pretty much I get my little shoes right in there and put a lot of tension on this thing. And see that? I was kind of holding it and I just zapped that nut right off. Other thing I forgot to mention is you can see I actually had a mark on here. Normally if we build this with the factory tools, we'd torque it to the I think it's 50 something, 46 foot-pounds or something. But pretty much I'm taking apart a factory part. I'm just going to, you know, zap it with an impact right to the original mark right there.
So robot basically indexed the nut and an actual collar. See with the black marks, the camera's not cooperating and not focusing, but it's late. We got to keep rolling. Oh, that looks pretty good.
So there's that. You got the spring. Pull that spring out. There's a little seat on there that's still there, and there's the other part of the mark right there. So we have that all apart. One last part is this little Teflon spacer. Kind of want to check the operation of this clutch. If there's a grease leaking out of here, you may want to take this down further. I'm not going to go into how to rebuild this, but basically this sleeve comes off. There's 4 pins in there that can be re-greased, and these actual grease seals can be rebuilt. If you don't feel comfortable doing this step, feel free to send this to us and we'd be happy in our service department to overhaul this clutch. All right, back to reassembling the driven pulley here. I have the two clutch springs next to each other. The Malossi one's got a much higher spring rate. It's kind of part of the whole variator system of theirs, so you want to put this in. Pretty much took this collar off on the bottom of the original spring. This guy actually seats right into that. And it kind of almost snaps in. You can see it snapped in. And then we're going to go ahead and drop this Teflon guide right back on. We're going to put a little bit of Loctite, little blue Loctite on the actual threads. Only need a little bit. Drop the spring back on there. Give it a couple little workouts right there. And this little guy, this is going to be the fun part.
There we go.
Okay. So we got that nut started, and we're going to go ahead and zap that on there. And there you go. Got the lines pretty much all lined up for the most part. Good enough. So we're going to go ahead and put the original belt back in the scooter and start buttoning up the transmission. All right, so I'm holding the belt right here. I'm going to go ahead and slide this onto the spline shaft. Pretty much it's got a key to those splines at the last little bit. Slide that all the way on, and I have the belt. I'm still holding the belt because it's going to want, the pressure of the spring wants to push the belt off. So I'm holding that. I'm going to take that thicker flat washer. That's going to go on this. Take the actual variator pulleys. And go ahead and slide that on. And once I have it pretty much flush up against that washer, I went ahead and let go of the belt. And you got a couple more washers to put on. The little bit thinner thick washer, and then the very thick washer that's got a dome that's directional. So pretty much I'm going to put that out. And you can actually see two little dimples on it, and that kind of indicates the outside of it. Pretty much if you just pay attention to where the actual the variator center nut was rubbing, you could see kind of which way it goes on. And again, just for preventive measures, always put a little bit of blue Loctite on these threads right here. Just only needs a little bit. Don't get carried away with the Loctite. I've seen some people think Loctite's the greatest stuff in the world. It just makes a mess of everything. I'm going to go ahead and thread the nut on.
And Robot, those are people that are at home familiar with variator nuts on other applications and engines, how it's vehemently non-reusable. On this particular engine, it's okay to reuse it, obviously?
That's correct. You could reuse this nut. You know, obviously replace it if it's kind of tore up or beat up. But actually, this washer with the kind of bevel shape to it is actually what kind of locks the nut in place. And I'm just kind of hand tightening it right now. And if you want, right now, everything's seated. You can kind of give it a couple, you know, just a couple revolutions to kind of get a little bit of tension on the belt. You can see it's kind of right at the very edge of this driven pulley right here. Next thing you got to do is torque that nut. It's pretty critical that you torque it to the correct torque, around 93 foot-pounds. And they actually do write the torque on here on the pulley. You can see it engraved into the thing. 120 to 130 newton meters, which comes out around 90 something foot-pounds. So go ahead and put this guy in here. If you have a tool like this, you know, when you torque it, you see how the thing is kind of stopped against the ground? That makes the job a lot easier. 93 foot-pounds, 126 newton meters. So that's pretty much exactly halfway between the two ones. So pretty much there you go. A lot of times I like marking the nut and the actual shaft that was torqued, usually with a paint pen, not a Sharpie. Not a bad idea. So everything in here is done. Belt cover's lined up to the two dowels on it, and then give it a little bang, it pots right on. The 11 belt cover fasteners have been reinstalled and torqued at about 7.5 foot-pounds. The air filter fasteners have been reinstalled. Last fastener, critical fastener, is this actual driven pulley center nut. One problem is you can't really easily turn it. It kind of has a little bit of resistance of the belt. This is actually the factory tool. We're going to have the specialized tool pretty soon. It pretty much just drops into that little hole and will actually lock up the clutch. You need to torque that center nut to 56 foot-pounds. Make sure the wave washer is still with it. You can kind of hear the motor actually turn over the first time I did it. There you go. Install the plastic cover and you're all finished. Oh, this thing's awesome, Al.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
High five. Ah!
Sorry.
So yeah, it goes good, yeah? All right?
That was great.
I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah, definitely. I think you'll be pretty happy.
Yeah.
Even makes more noise, which I know you like.
Oh yeah, love the noise.
RPMs are probably like 1,500 RPMs higher when you're
Sweet.
really on the throttle.
Nice.
It gives us some good pickup.
Yeah? I'll be able to beat those ninjas now, the ninjas.
Oh yeah, show all those little Ninja 300s what's
Nice. Oh yeah. I love doing that on the scooters, you know? It's like you pull up next to a motorcycle and just totally smoke them. They're just like, yeah, they kind of lose a little bit there, you know? It's always fun.
All right,
That's great.
Let's wrap it up. What did we just finish up?
We got-
Alright, got the Malossi Variator kit installed. We got the clutch spring kit installed. I have the middle weight of those clutch springs installed. It's definitely a lot snappier off the line. You gotta watch because the rear tire wants to slide out.
All right.
And that's it.
Man, I'm ready to ride. I can't wait.
Till next time, thanks for watching. This is Vespa Motorsport, Scooter West, San Diego, talking about the Malossi Variator and the BV350 along with the Malossi clutch. Sayonara.